Tevez sta solo, Tevez al limite dell'area, fa fuori tutti, Tevez, si apre la porta, Tevez, gol, da dietro, Pirlo dentro,
Welcome, Juventini, back to the All Juve cast. A little bit of a surprise live here, and after the news that caught us all by surprise yesterday, this was a big shakeup and absolutely massive. We're going to tackle it all. We're going to give our thoughts. We're going to obviously hear everybody on the live how Juventini are feeling. The DMs to my Twitter and whatnot, even on WhatsApp, went absolutely wild yesterday. Anth, I can't help but feel maybe a little responsible. I might have jinxed it. I mean, I was sitting down at work, having a coffee, literally talking to my buddy there saying, you know what's nice? If there's one positive to take out of Italy not making the World Cup, is that I can enjoy this World Cup in peace, stress-free as a neutral. This break's been a little bit nice. Then all of a sudden I look down and I have a WhatsApp from you and it says, live show tomorrow morning, ? And I'm thinking, what on earth? We just did one on the weekend. What on earth could we possibly have to talk about? I go, what do you want to talk about? And then I switch over to Twitter and boom, here we are. Absolute bombshell. The entire board has resigned, including Agnelli, Arrivabene, and Nedved. And what the hell?
Well, good morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're having a great day. Listen, someone put on here, the night is darkest before the dawn. I'm pretty sure that's a Batman reference. But listen, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into some details. Al's going to lay it out. I'm going to give my comments. We read through everything yesterday. It's still sort of a fluid situation. So we don't have all the information. We just sort of have, I think it's clearer than it was yesterday, but we're just going to give our thoughts. I'm going to give my opinion on what should happen. And you're going to give yours. So let's just jump right into it, man. Let's just get right into this.
Yeah. Essentially, it all does stem from the original investigation, which was obviously the falsifying of numbers in regards to plusvalenza. So the plusvalenza thing is what kind of stemmed all of it. Again, I will state this, that was thrown out, and the reason was there are no measurables. There are no measurables that can tell a club or a team what they can and can't sell a player for. So that's kind of essentially, and that's a key point to remember in some of the concerns that Juventini may have with what's going on right now. And we'll get to that as we get further into it. It stems from there. That was essentially pretty much done and dusted, and there was no harm, no foul. Nothing really seemed to come of that. There was also, again, a very, very key point to factor in here for Juventini that might feel threatened or concerned, is that there are other clubs that were involved, okay? There are other clubs that were involved in the plusvalenza case, Inter being one, Napoli being another, and then a few other Serie A sides, okay? So keep that in mind and remember that key point as well, that those two were involved in the plusvalenza case, okay? Now, from that, it has now become a situation of them seeing that there was papers missing in regards to a few deals. Ronaldo obviously is one that's in question, okay? Then it stemmed into Juve maybe falsifying the numbers in terms of what they've actually lost. The players, and basically Agnelli had addressed that the players had sacrificed some salary. This was, I believe, around November. It could have been September or October. Yeah, September, right. October. That they had sacrificed some of their salaries and some of their bonuses to help out due to the issues that came from COVID financially.
They call it sporting maneuvers.
Salary maneuvers.
Salary maneuvers.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
That's the salary maneuvers that are what they're addressing. So now it's being reported that they were in fact still paying and keeping it away from the books. So falsifying the numbers is the main thing that's at hand right now. Okay.
Which is a
Now,
major deal because Juventus is a publicly traded company.
there you go. Publicly traded company. That is where this all kind of stems, and that's where it all sits right now. And again, a big difference that we should all keep in mind is that as of right now, it is not being questioned on a sporting level.
No.
So
That's going to be a
the
tough stretch, but
relegation, all this, everything right now is separated. Again, I say
Yeah.
right now because as
They'll
I
find a
told
way.
Anthony, it's Italy and
It's
it's
Italy.
Juventus. And hey, anything can happen. As of right now,
But we'll
it
get
is
into that.
financial and it is essentially prosecutors coming at those involved with Juventus in terms of penalization. And we can get back to the original penalization that they asked for in late October, around October 25th, which was a 1-year ban for those involved. Paratici, Agnelli, Nedved, I think, was 8 months involved, and an 800,000 euro fine. That is what the prosecution was after back in late October. Okay. So this kind of gives you the basis of what's kind of at hand, what's going on. Now, the board completely resigning, there are a number of theories as to what exactly is going down. And Ant, now you can start to give some theories.
Just before we get into that, there was a board meeting scheduled for the end of October, which got postponed to November, and then middle of November, and then I believe that one got postponed. Then they had this one, and this one was going to get postponed to the end of December. So now this is where for me, this is where it gets really interesting. What happened in the days leading up to yesterday? Because I read that the FIGC and the Serie A was already informed on Sunday of these moves potentially happening. So it appears that there was disagreements on how to so there's CONSAB. We should actually bring that up. So there's the government authority in Italy responsible for regulating the Italian securities markets, right? So this is, since Juventus is a publicly traded company, this CONSAB investigated, they found some irregularities. Juventus implemented procedures to correct these irregularities. Now, this is where I think the internal strife, because that's what it was, occurred. So we have some individuals who did not agree with what was implemented. That's my understanding. People correct me if I'm wrong, but that misunderstanding was either between Agnelli and Elkin and within the board itself, because there was one individual who, if I can get her name really quick. Sorry, we got a lot going on here. Where's her name?
Her last name was Merilongo. Daniele Merilongo, if I'm not mistaken.
So she was part of the risk committee, and that was the really interesting thing for me, because she resigned separately. She almost didn't want her name tied to the group resignation. So that right there was a red flag for me. So my understanding is that the way that the corrections were being implemented were either not good enough for her or others, and they were for Agnelli and not Elkin. So that's why, in order to move forward with whatever potentially may be coming, because I understand there are going to be prosecutors involved, now they felt that the best path forward would be to dissolve the board and reinstate it with more, because right now the board is made up of people more with financial sort of backgrounds, right? They wanted to bring in people who more, I think, with legal backgrounds. I think we're going to see a lot of those coming in the next month.
Yeah, there's more to it too. It's not just a defense as far as one or two not agreeing with how they were going about the defense of this thing. And the board, some of it was a forced resignation because there is a shareholders meeting on December 27th. Okay. So December 27th is the next shareholders meeting. The board has to be voted on. It's not appointed. So it has to be voted on. That's going to take place, okay, in the coming months and whatnot. The shareholders meeting is December 27th. A vote cannot take place unless they hit the reset on the entire board. And that's why everybody needed to be swept. Okay. And now it's no surprise that you're hearing some of the news as if Nedved could, in fact, return to that whatnot. There's
As
also
a board
theories out
member.
there. There's also theories out there that until the smoke settles, some of these guys might actually return. Okay. So that's one theory that's going out there, is that once the smoke settles on all of this, there could be a potential return, not only for Nedved, but some of the other guys as well. What we know as of right now is obviously Scandavino is coming in as general manager.
Correct.
Acting president is going to be Ferraro, Gianluca Ferraro. That's all we know as of right now. Okay.
So the one thing to note about the acting president is that in situations like this, they would normally bring in a CEO or president for a short period of time, almost like the restructuring period. And it was already reported today that Ferraro is only going to be there potentially until January 18th. So you almost have just like a stepping stone. And then I saw some other names getting thrown out of who might be voted in. I don't know if we want to get into that, but
yeah,
I heard Platini get involved.
There's a lot here to take in. Some of the questions, some of the feelings that are coming, and again, I said the DMs were crazy, all these texts, the WhatsApp. Look, Agnelli is still owner of Juventus. He's still one of the owners of Juventus. Okay. What have I been saying for a while, even in footballing terms? Okay. It's startling when you have these investigations behind the team, and naturally all the media is going to jump on it. Okay. Of course they are. One thing to keep in mind too is who actually controls some of that media. So before you get fired up, before you hit that panic button, take that into consideration, everybody. Agnelli is still one of the owners of Juventus. It's still family run, everything. He is still going to be tied with Juve. That will never change, whether he's at the forefront or not. Okay. Don't expect that to change. Okay. So right now, the Agnelli era is over in terms of him as acting president. Okay. He's still very much there, and Elkan's still very much there. For those thinking that Juventus will be sold, no. Extor is actually like probably stronger than ever, but I don't expect that to ever go down. Okay, so we can kind of end that and whatnot there. In terms of the investigation and everything, again, right now, all that can come of it right now is a trial for those involved. And honestly, if we're even talking about expecting jail time, due to the way things work in Italy, the case would probably end up being thrown out on time parameters, and they would also ultimately come down to the fines. That's where it sits right now. I'd
like to jump on that one really quick. Now, I know obviously we're the all Juve cast, we're bit homers for Juventus, but I'm going to say this pretty point blank. If people were cooking the books, I would have zero problem with the prosecutors throwing the book at them. You can't be doing that stuff.
Yeah.
You're a publicly traded company. You want to be, respected in Italy. You can't be cooking books like this. Now, obviously, let's see how it comes out. Let's see what was done. But if it comes out legitimately that there was some funny play with the numbers, I'd have no problems with them prosecuting Agnelli or Nedved or whoever else. Zero problems with it.
Absolutely. It shouldn't happen and everything. And this is where it starts to get into some of the messages I was getting. One of them saying, I'm not going to name names who's messaging me, whatnot, but one of them saying literally this team hasn't learned anything. And again, if they get hooked on this and whatnot, and it leads to these punishments and whatnot, I'm done with this team. This is actually some of the message I got consistently. I'm done with this team if this ends up coming into this.
Yeah, like that's just this. Okay, someone put on here, like, this is a good point. Like, they weren't like accused of fixing games or,
yes,
it was COVID. Like you I don't want to sound like I'm, again, now I just said that one thing and now I'm defending Juventus, but it was COVID. There was things going on. Financial decisions are being made. I don't agree if they were making those financial decisions, but they weren't like bringing in players, not paying them like how Inter does. You know what I mean? Like they were still paying players. They're just maneuvering. What do they call it again? The financial maneuvers, salary maneuvers.
Yeah.
So, but as a publicly traded company, man, like you just can't be doing this stuff. It's bush league.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what it ultimately comes down to. Is right now it's the financial investigators and prosecution that's coming after Juventus for that because it's publicly traded, and that's it. That's it right as of now.
Mm-hmm.
The FIGC and their involvement, for those that are wondering about that, okay? Look, so we've already seen the document that's floating around, and Lou, bless his heart, has been absolutely on fire this morning. Actually, ever since yesterday when the news broke out on our Twitter feed, he's been doing an incredible job trying to keep everybody in the loop. Again, we lay it out for you to play it out, okay? We're going to give you everything that's being said there from all the sources and whatnot, but again, take it all with a grain of salt, and there is a lot of questions that remain unanswered in terms of how we can necessarily feel. That's why I said yesterday, for those that are ready to hit the panic button already and kind of lose it and whatnot, take it easy and calm down. Right now, it's the initial thing. Obviously, it's a shock because it came out of nowhere. However, we don't know a lot of details. Number one, okay, if we go back as a timestamp, for a while now, this team hasn't been performing, okay? And there was a major shakeup that could have been called. We start to look at what's been said by the team, by the club, by some of those officials and whatnot. Elkan kind of started to get a little more involved than we've seen in a long time, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And this was before the investigation. We even talked about it on some of these shows and some of these podcasts. We said, Elkan's actually around now and starting to be a little more involved. It's a little bit odd because you're not used to seeing him. Okay. But however, this season that happened. Then the investigation comes out. Obviously, the team's not performing well. Allegri starts to get in question. Not only does Allegri get in question, but Arrivabene is asked about Agnelli and should we get rid of those that put Max in charge if it's been such a failure. Arrivabene's words were, if he goes, we all end up having to go because he chose me as well. We're all tied to this. And that's a guy that just came in this summer. Okay. He's been part of the board for maybe 10 years, maybe longer, whatnot, but he just came in to the actual club this summer. So very, very interesting stuff amongst all of that's going on. One of the theories is that this was just a forced resignation and maybe made to look a bit better because Elkan just finally wants changes.
Yeah,
this is one of the theories going around there. This was a forced resignation, more of a soft firing than it was, and also to appease those prosecutors and everything in what's going on and kind of create a bit of a separation from Juventus and those investigations, similar to a Barcelona situation that went down with Bartomeu, where Barcelona remained, everything stayed intact. He ended up being that kind of scapegoat. Somewhat similar, but Anth?
That one I'm not sure about, but I think to sort of agree with it, there was another report today that Elkan was advised to, proceed in a manner that would, appease the consub or the prosecutors that have these potential charges or whatever coming up. You got to wave your hand in front of the camera, Al. So
what's going on here?
So that seems very plausible to me, where he has very high paying lawyers saying, like, listen, because they all get, a heads up, this is coming out. They know what's going to happen. Like this, anything that's coming through the prosecution or through the legal channels, this is not a surprise to the lawyers. So Alkin would have been advised well in advance of this to say, listen, this is a potential that could happen. One possible solution to, like you said, maybe appease the prosecutors in that salary maneuver investigation is to dissolve the board. And we can call it a board resignation, but I kind of agree with you. This kind of, I don't know if you think that's what it is, but I kind of agree with the route that maybe this was a cleaning house. Maybe this was Elkin finally saying, "Nah, we got to switch up pass here."
Not only that, but there's more and more surfacing about Agnelli hinting at going away from this for a bit now.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's another thing as well to kind of factor into this. Again, you're getting pieces of information coming at you from all angles.
Mhm.
You choose what sticks to the wall, and what doesn't, basically. Okay.
Mhm.
But there are, again, one of the theories was this was more of a soft firing. Okay. The other is that Agnelli's been wanting to go for a while. One of the things we've talked about on some of these podcasts when Agnelli was kind of a topic of discussion about moving away and maybe we need this change and everything.
Mhm.
He's looked off for a while in the stands. You used to see a guy that would celebrate all the moments, all the goals and whatnot. And he's been kind of numb for a while. Up until just recently and whatnot. And I don't know, like it's just one of the things we noticed. Just something to kind of just add in there and touch on. It's something that's been noticed by many Juventini that they brought up in DMs and whatnot to me and everything. We've talked a bit about it on the show. A little bit of a disconnect there. Maybe everything just coming to a halt. The other thing is Super League. Super League has been brought up with this whole thing too. And the fact that Juve might have been banking on all that money and thinking it goes down. And again, when we talk about could this have been a soft firing? Maybe, just maybe, if he's banking on pipe dreams and then the execution of that Super League blew up in their face, which was a shock. We remember how shocked we were talking about how they could have gone into that and not foreseen that the reception it got, the poor reception it got. Like it was very strange.
Well, okay, man, this is like you said, with like how we take any Juventus game, we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to take this one day at a time, of course, but it's hard to disagree with this just being a cleaning house, an easy way to reset. Now, going back to the salary maneuvers and the potential fines, because remember, this is a financial investigation, not a sporting investigation. So this is an easy way to say for Elkin, if that's the case, this is just conjecture. This is just speculation on our parts. We have not read this. But to your point, this is a good way of Elkin for cleaning house and restarting. And, we don't always agree with what the Ultras bring. We agree with some of the stuff that they bring, but they posted a comment today. Somebody, I can't remember who reposted on Twitter, but we should find that. They were ecstatic at Agnelli leaving. So, but does that necessarily mean that the Ultras are going to be allowed back in? So a lot of stuff's going to be happening the next couple of days. Super League, is it dead? Is it not? Are the Ultras going to be coming back in? Are they not? But the one guy who's still there, and this whole thing, I kind of flipped this one back to you, Max Allegri. So in the past couple months, everyone's been saying, we're with Max, we're with Max, we're with Max. Max is the guy, Max is the guy. That all those comments to me, I'd like to get your input on this, to me makes sense because they saw the potential of this happening and they would have needed Max to stay in place if changes come above. So for me, that now all makes sense for them to say they saw this coming and they needed Max to stay knowing that they're all going to be gone.
Yeah. With Max, it's interesting because obviously the joke, the running meme is that this guy outlasts even the board and the management, everybody. Look, I said this the same. Everybody's saying, get rid of Max. Look, first thing is first.
Mhm.
You have to redesign. You have to reshape. There's no sense in getting rid of Max right now when you don't even know who your actual long-term upper management is going to in fact be.
Right.
So wait until that's sorted out. Again, this team went in with 6 consecutive wins, clean
Mhm.
sheets and everything. Like, let's carry that on. Let Allegri work at least until we have got those guys coming in and see what our project looks like, what the future looks like, and then they can act accordingly. If they don't believe Max is the guy for them, then we move. But right now, to also throw Max on top of it, no. And Cherubini's remaining. Cherubini, again, I was just giving him props on a daily update video for the Juve Next Gen and all this, and they actually played their first game in front of publicly with
30,000.
30,000 fans in attendance, which was fantastic. Cherubini's done a solid job. In terms of Max, hey, he's made it through a period where we thought 100% he could have been justifiably fired. Now,
Very justified.
amidst all this, just keep him. There's no need to add that on top of everything. Okay, let your new board shape up. Let your upper management shape up long term, not with these interns, and let them all of a sudden decide on Max's fate. That's not the right way to go about this. Okay, now in terms of there's a lot that we're celebrating this change, and it's not quite in a mode to celebrate the change, although change can be good. And maybe the ultras, all this, maybe, the new regime starts off and they say, yeah, you know what, we do want to change the atmosphere, we want to go back to maybe time will tell. But right now, for those that are concerned, and I still see it coming in here, worrying about Calciopoli 2.0, all this, again, I cannot stress this enough that right now there is nothing being investigated on the sporting side. They need to actually link falsified numbers, okay, financial irregularities to the sporting side, okay? And right now, it ain't there.
No. I'll jump on that one too. So another addition to why this is different than 2006 is 2006 was like very directly a sporting allegation. The other thing that people forget about 2006 was that Juventus was going to appeal. They were all going to appeal, but there was pressure on the FIGC from FIFA and UEFA to say, you guys need to get this cleaned up ASAP, or else the national team won't be able to compete in qualifications for the Euros, which was starting that September. So there was pressure from other footballing entities on the FIGC and Juventus to say, get this thing cleaned up. So there wasn't an avenue for legal recourse for Juventus, or it was sort of pressured for them to not take that avenue. So they had to, kind of bend the knee, as they say, to take their penalties. In this case, I guarantee you that there is no way, after what happened in 2006, there is no way Juventus they'll hire, I don't even know how many lawyers they're going to take. They'll double it to ensure that there is no sort of exorbitant financial penalties or relegation. I don't see it happen. Even if they try, they'll tie it up in the courts for so long that if they do, it'll be 50 years from now before they even see any sort of relegation. So I wouldn't even worry about that.
Yeah. Want to get to a couple of comments here and whatnot real quick here. So we got this one coming in from Adomatic. You can't use the COVID excuse. Every football team was hugely affected. Yeah, and we said that. We said there is no excuse for doing this, and those that have kind of done that and caused problems for Juve need to be punished. And it's Nedved, Agnelli, all of them. You can't do that. You simply can't do that as a publicly traded company. And
so maybe I wasn't like, I wanted to say I can see why they would do it, and it is an excuse. They use COVID as an excuse, but then if you're a publicly traded company and you're a serious company, you can't be doing those sort of things. You can't. It's Mickey
absolutely
Mouse.
not. I will say this in terms of worried about relegation as well. Again, it's not tied to the sporting side. If the clubs, because obviously the rivals and whatnot, everybody's got this thing where they're going to come at us. They're going to turn this into a big thing and put pressure on FIGC. Remember what we said at the top of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget this. Inter and Napoli were two amongst other teams that were also investigated for the plusvalenza side of this, which, okay, again, sporting and whatnot, the connection is not as strong as what everybody's thinking about, which is 2006. Okay, 2006, you had straight up match fixing as the emphasis. Plusvalenza, financial irregularities, very, very hard to tie into the sporting side. How you could tie it into a sporting side is differences in meeting requirements for fair play in terms of European competition and everything like that. And that's still very, very loose. Okay. But that would be it. The plusvalenza side, again, another key point we brought up at the start. There is absolutely no measurables that state there's a certain amount or certain criteria that you could sell a player for to any other team. There is nothing there. So if the rivals want to push FIGC and try and put that pressure on there, they need to remind themselves that, number one, they are in fact investigated for the exact same thing. They have done the exact same thing. And yes, there were finesses made. Okay, the Pjanic deal with Artur and whatnot, everybody saw what that was, and that was accounting and working with another side to correct big areas. Again, though, there is no regulation or measurables against doing that.
Everybody does it.
Massive key points to think about. So right now, relegation, all that, do not be concerned. Don't be concerned with that, because right as of now, there's nothing. And I know I've seen the Gazzetta report saying that relegation could be there and whatnot. Look, right now, it is not on a sporting side. So fines, expect some penalties, but no, nothing on that front. Anything you want to add to kind of that, Ant, before we get to the next
it's pretty straightforward. And maybe one thing I'll add is that other clubs are privately owned. So let's not, don't kid yourselves. The issues with COVID, maybe salary maneuvers, all these clubs were doing it. Like, what are we even talking about here? You cannot tell me that Juventus was the only one doing that. Like, there's no way. Inter was even paying their players. Maybe that's what Juventus should have done. Maybe we should have been a Mickey Mouse club like Inter and just not pay our players.
Not just in Italy, but across the board. There have been deals like this. Like, I can think of a lot of European clubs that have made deals that, were to finesse the books. Okay. And hell, let the rivals push with FIGC. For Christ's sake, we sold Bonucci to Milan for 42 million and then wanted him back and ended up sending them Caldera, who was only worth 19, for a straight swap.
Yeah, sounds about even.
So tell them to just, pump the brakes, idiots.
Even so, before we get to the next one, even point deduction, it's like, oh, man, I don't know.
I don't see it right now.
No,
I don't see it right now.
Neither do I.
To be honest, maybe a point deduction. But the thing is that they're dating this back to 2019. So 2019 to essentially 21, which take us to the beginning of the current period. So it's one of those things that, again, they're going to look at everything and see what happens. I think personally, they didn't record the losses to the extent that they were at. Also, we brought in two times we had capital influxes, okay, to kind of correct the books and whatnot. For me, when I look at all of this, it's mismanaged. It's incredibly mismanaged. And
Terrible.
when you think, and I've said this so many times on podcasts, if you think of the amount of money this club has been taken in from Champions League outside of this season, obviously, but over the past decade, whatnot, it's crazy to think of where we are financially. and they've made a mess of the numbers. And there's no way this team should be coming in recording the largest losses Serie A has ever seen. And for me, it's why I think this is a soft firing that went down. If I'm being honest.
So, man, there's the chat's go. While you're here, can you please just like the channel while you're here? Tell your friend, be a friend, tell a friend, subscribe. Every little bit helps. Drop a comment after the show. Everything helps. But we see here, there's a lot of comments here. So I know we've saved a lot of Storm the Barn questions. We'll get to them, but this one seems to be a hot topic right now. Do you see us having to foresee us having to sell players? I don't know about that one.
So right now, again, we haven't actually faced any penalties. Yeah. So we don't actually know what the aftermath is going to be and everything. But everybody's talking about the curiosity, like, how are the players going to feel? Like, what do the players think about all this and everything? Like, you get this question a lot. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to hear from the players and whatnot. Look, as a player, like, I don't really know, like, how much would they care, especially if the team was actually still paying them and being
penalized. You and I talked about this last night. Yeah.
Like,
it's like,
if I'm
do
a
they
player
really care?
and the team put themselves at risk lying while being publicly traded that we sacrificed some salary and some bonuses when we were still getting paid, I think I'm pretty happy with my team actually and club, like, that they would take that risk or whatnot, and I'm going to be fine.
Am I still getting a paycheck?
Yeah, like, ultimately, I'm getting paid, my Juve and whatnot. I don't think the players are going to be that concerned, to be 100% honest, if it's just the financial. Again, everybody, it is not sporting related at the moment. Okay.
I think the key is that Max is, whether you're an Allegri in or Allegri out guy, remember, I'm on the fence. I'm a Juventus supporter, so don't jump me for this one. But again, Max is still there. And Max, by all indications, is liked within the change room and can lead the players through this. So that's another reason why I believe now it makes sense that they kept Max in place, because they foresaw something like this happen.
Yeah.
So
CR7. So
that's a problem.
There is no doubt.
Zero
Absolutely
doubt.
no doubt, and very, very well documented by a laundry list of sources that his financials, partnered up with COVID, are largely responsible for putting Juventus in a big debt.
Partnered with COVID is the key.
Yeah, because it probably would have been fine and sustainable and everything due to the revenue deficiencies during COVID. They didn't actually get the boost out of the CR7 marketing and all this that they thought they were going to end up getting. And it no doubt partnered that with a massive salary and everything like that. It was a recipe for disaster. Looking back, Juve probably should have tried to get out of that quicker, but you're pretty much pot committed. Like, they were pot committed. It sucked and they had to ride it out, and it is what it is. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. That definitely contributed.
He did bag a lot of goals for us, though. It was fun.
Sure.
Come on, guys.
But if you would have seen the route this was going, if you would have known this back then, yeah, hindsight's 2020. You would have gotten out of that.
Would you?
Immediate. Well, hell yeah. 250 million in the hole, and it's actually worse.
I don't know, man. He bagged a lot of goals. Might be worth it.
Pretty nasty, man. Pretty nasty. But it kind of sucks because I was thinking about this last night too while everything comes in with CR. It's an absolute fucking shame that having a guy like that on your team for us was, for me anyways, was almost not as enjoyable as it should have been. to be honest, because of the numbers, because of the feelings, because of the fact we couldn't support him properly. We were tied up financially. It was like it was the right guy at the absolute worst time.
Mhm.
And that's the part for me that really sucks when I think back to Cristiano Ronaldo's time with us. The guy did his job and then some when it comes to
Mhm.
producing and scoring goals and whatnot. But it really sucks to look back at getting one of the all-time greatest and not being able to fully enjoy that. It kind of
Mhm.
sucks. Kind of
Oh
sucks.
no, that 3-0. I enjoyed that 3-0 win against Atletico. That was a lot of fun. It's not
Oh,
worth 250 million, but well, it's close.
yeah, I don't think it's close, but that's okay. That's okay. Now, get to some more of the Store in the
Yeah,
Barn and the live
yeah,
again. Reminder,
for sure.
everybody, like the video. Again, we get a lot of comments and questions like, how can we support you guys? Super chats enabled if you wish to
Mhm.
donate. The other thing is check out our store that's linked on the YouTube. By the way, for the next 6 days, 15% off everything and free shipping. Okay. So if you've been eyeing up some of our
What?
designs,
You know
the
that.
new Del Piero, the new Chiesa design out there, whatnot, if you're looking to support the channel in that form, now's your chance. 15% off and free shipping for the next 6 days. Why do you think Cherubini's resignation was rejected amongst all others?
You're asking me? Yeah. So the way they had a press conference, I think it was on Monday. What's today? Tuesday. They had a meeting or press conference on Monday about the next gen and look at everything that's been done with the next gen. The way that part of the club has been built is Kedabini's brainchild, right? So this was an easy no from the club to say no, you're going to stick around. I don't know if he was doing it just to say, hey, I'm with you. I'm part of the team. I want to restructure whatever the restructure plan is. I'll be a part of it. But I think this was him trying to maybe follow somebody out, and they were like, no. They just put their finger in his chest and said, you get back to your desk because you're doing the right thing, and this has nothing to do with you in the sporting side, and we're going to keep this separate. And that's another thing, is him resigning would, not that it shows that there's a connection to the sporting side, but it's not a good look if your sporting director resigns.
Yeah.
So they're just like, no, you get back to your desk and you keep doing what you're doing, because you and Max have a team coming back in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. He's not responsible for any of the matters that are there. He
Mm-mm.
came in trying to clean up and has been doing the right thing. Also, the Juve Next Gen is a massive, massive motion in order to help things and be sustainable and a long-term great, great thing for Juventus. He's not tied to it. I think he tried to do it for that solidarity, and they just said, no, this isn't right, to be honest. And as
This is
far
not
as
a sporting
Arrivabene
issue.
goes, um, he's still in position until he's
Till
kind of
January.
assisting in the
Mhm.
transition and whatnot. But even he can be kind of separated somewhat unless there's more to it behind the scenes again that we don't know, right? But Cherubini,
Mhm.
for me, and rightfully so, shouldn't be involved and should not be one of the guys resigning. Okay.
Not even close.
Now this is an interesting one from Justin.
Mhm.
Now that a lot of cards are on the table, is Allegri the best thing to possibly happen to the club? So it's got to be stated too. Cherubini and Max Allegri actually met yesterday. Apparently, according to reports, they met yesterday and whatnot. And
Mhm.
apparently, Allegri's gonna take his time and think things over and whatnot. I actually don't believe that. And yes, one of the reasons I don't believe is because it's coming from Momblano. So I absolutely don't believe it with his track record. I don't think Max is going anywhere. I think Max is going to remain until
Mhm.
definitely season's end, and maybe if there's a new board, if they're not in line, yeah, there could be a change, whatnot. But I fully expect Max to stick around. Is Allegri the best thing to possibly happen to the club? I've already taken a big fat L in the fact that I didn't think he could turn things around to the point where we did before the World Cup break. If even this shakeup it does add a bit of uncertainty and weird feelings to the team and everything overall. If he can continue through everything he's faced this year, if we have a positive showing and strong showing, we continue down the path we finished up the World Cup break going into it in. Jesus Christ, he might have to just stick around. I'm being 100% serious, and everybody knows my thoughts and feelings and whatnot in terms of how he sees the game and everything like that. Everybody knows how I feel about it, but I'm telling you, if the results come and amidst everything he's faced and whatnot, the turnaround already going in those 6 games is massive. I said, and now it holds even more true what I said before the break. We're going to learn way more about Max in January than we have the first half of the season, because now if he gets all the guys fit, we're going to learn a hell of a lot more, especially about youth integration and everything like that. And then I might feel like, yeah, we got to move away if we're not getting those guys integrated overall. And we go back to falling into the same trap of going with a McKennie that's not performing and all this. What are your thoughts on this whole, is Allegri the best thing to possibly happen?
So I'm going to answer it the way I think he's asking the question. So is the Allegri the best possible thing to happen to the club now that all this has happened with the board? Not is Allegri the best thing to happen, 2 years ago. So I don't think they foresaw this 2 years ago. So I'll answer the question as if it's being asked, is he the best possible manager for the current situation? And the answer is yes. Because one, you don't want to change your manager based on the track record, like you said, coming into the World Cup break. And two, as annoying as it is, he never lets outside distractions. That's fine. I'll support that. Sorry. He never lets outside distractions, as we see it, affect the team. So he's the one who can shield. His pressers are going to be they're going to be even worse now with the vague comments and the non-answers, and like buckle up for those, Al. They're going to be we're going to have nothing coming from. It's almost like Bill Belichick from the Patriots. Like he has the worst pressers after every game. Max is going to be the same, and I think that's what you need. You want someone to just not bring that sort of stuff into the change room, into the clubhouse. And yeah, I'll straight up. We took some L's on Max. I agree with that. But in this situation right now, 100% he's the right manager.
Yeah. Still, that contract.
Can't believe we're saying that, but
that contract. But
that's a completely separate conversation. But right now in this situation, yes. Yeah.
Now, Michael Raz, again, the live chat's been absolutely insanity right now. But do you think now with this financial problem, we will sell or kick out underperforming stars? Honestly, okay, if we're talking about those two,
hang on.
Di Maria is only staying here 1 year.
Hang on a second. We already had a financial problem. We were already $250 million in debt. We don't know what financial problem will come of this. It could be what was it, 800,000 euro fine?
Could be 800K fine, and they just want those guys banned, which we've technically done in-house.
Right. So, Michael, great question. Thank you for your question. But I don't foresee the financial fines forcing us to sell players. But to get to your question now, Al, if you want to get to the question.
Well, to be honest, I think, again, everybody's saying now nothing happens in January. Nothing's happening till summer. We have to completely reshape. I think everything still remains the same as far as January goes. I only expected one guy coming in to offer support on Cuadrado's side, and I expect maybe one sale. Okay. That doesn't change for me regardless of all this. As far as the underperforming stars, Arrivabene and Cherubini have already been trying to clean things up and try to put together a roster. The financial problem is there before this because they were handcuffed in the last summer mercado, okay? You start hearing about Bonucci on an automatic renewal, okay? You have Sandro you can't do nothing with, and he had to stay beyond the time Juve wanted. This management didn't want him going into the season. Wanted to bring somebody else in. You've got guys that they've backed out of because they don't have the financial means. So these guys, again, and everybody goes back, you're picking up Pogba, he's injury prone, all this. the financial problems have been there for a minimum of 3 years. Okay. And the problem was we had a guy before that was looking for the flash in the pan names and wasn't spreading it out as much. Cherubini and Arrivabene have showed that they could spread it out a bit better already. But again, it's harsh. And that's why I think it's harsh of Cherubini if he would have had to resign or whatnot, because I think he's done overall very, very well, given the fact this financial problem is not new. Didn't just come up.
Well, let's just think about it. Paredes is going to be out. Rovella comes back. He costs you nothing. Di Maria and Pogba cost you nothing to bring in. Now they have high salaries, but I don't like. I disagree with you on the fact that we're going to be doing any business in January, but it could happen. I don't think it will now. But
we're still competing. I mean, I don't see this changing things. The Kid Rubini's still in fact. We still have Serie A to play for. It's not like the world shuts down because of this.
Yeah, no, and in terms of next summer, the deals next summer, you know, the first one is Paredes out, Rovella in, Sandro out, you know, Cambiaso. Like they have in, they can bring Cambiaso in or Pellegrini back in. Like they have youth or younger players sort of set in positions to fill some holes. So again, I agree with you on this. I don't think it's going to affect the summer market. They're moving forward. The board will be in place. Everybody will be in place by that point. I do disagree with you that something will happen in January.
We should put a wager on
it. Yeah, we'll think of one. I can't think of one right now. This whole thing, we were up late last night going through all this stuff, man. This has been wild.
It's absolutely crazy. I passed out on the couch because I was just like scanning and going back on timestamps, the stuff in October that we were bringing up and everything. So there is a question in the live chat about La Liga. Thoughts on La Liga's statement and everything. And
did you want me to start with that one? You want me to start with this one?
You want to start with it?
Yeah,
I was gonna just kind of briefly, as quick as I can, read the statement.
Go ahead.
Which is basically, dated obviously 29th November, following the resignation of Juventus board of directors late Monday. La Liga demands immediate sports sanctions to be applied to the club. La Liga filed an official complaint against Juventus with UEFA in April 2022, reporting financial fair play breaches being investigated by Italy's Guardia di Finanza, which is actually the guys that are investigating the financial irregularities currently. Okay. And it continues on, an enforcement agency under the authority. Blah, blah, blah. In Turin. Specifically, the complaint charges that Juventus accounted for transfers above fair value and under accounted for employee expenses, resulting in a breach of UEFA break-even requirements. Additionally, the complaint charges that Juventus concealed the true wage bill of its players. So, again, going back to that first part, there is no measurable against that.
Yep, that's correct.
But continue on with what I just wanted to get to those points out of that.
So the first one, 100% correct. You cannot determine the value of a player. It's an open market, and the value of the player is determined on how much is someone is willing to pay for them. To the financial irregularities, again, with Consab in Italy, were investigated, and they had recommended changes to the club. Those changes were implemented. Whether those changes were fully implemented or they captured all the financial irregularities, that's what's happening now. So that's nothing new. There's some people saying here in the chat that, Juventus already brought this up with UEFA. Like, this is nothing new. It's just the release of the board is sort of the last step in saying, listen, in order to appease everybody, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a fresh change. So let's not confuse, like, this is something new that's just coming out now. It's just the board was kind of like the big ripping off of the Band-Aid. And the third thing is, who gives a shit what La Liga thinks? I barely care what some of the people in the AJC think about, certain things. I could give two shits what the La Liga putting out a statement is like, whatever. What I mean, like, who cares? Just delete
It's
that tweet.
absolutely amazing. Great stuff there. Michael, I've always said it on this show. Okay. It's Juve against the world, baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Always has been, always will be. It's us against the world. I think maybe Striped Hearts needs to make some type of gear where it's us
Write
against
that
the world.
down.
But yeah, it
Juve
definitely is. In terms of this whole thing, again, there's so much uncertainty. There's so many unknowns. Again, the rivals. I kind of enjoy the fact that every little thing that happens, they scream relegation. Look, Carlo Garganese put out a statement that he got absolutely lambasted for it. And I think he's right. And I agree with him. Okay. And we're going to get into this. Okay. So let's bring this up and get into the whole Carlo thing, because Carlo, obviously a friend of the channel and whatnot. He's been on the show, and I have no problems with the guy. He's very, very strong opinion. Yeah, that's good stuff too.
It's not bad, yeah.
So here we go. Basically, a little, again, I said he has strong opinions, and the wording is not something I necessarily agree with. And there's a part I don't agree with, but we'll get to it. We'll break it down. If you're an Italian football fan and you're cheering for Juventus to be relegated, you are an idiot. If Juventus are relegated, that is the end of not only Juventus, but your club and the whole of Italian football forever. 2006 already destroyed Serie A. This would be the final nail. So, Carlo, getting lambasted for that, and I actually retweeted it because I agree with him to more than I disagree with in that statement.
Yep.
And I'll break it down here. But Ant, your thoughts on
No, go ahead. You do it. Go right ahead.
So for me, okay, I don't agree with the fact that he stated, number one, I don't agree with calling people idiots for their opinions and whatnot, okay? But number two, I don't agree with the fact that I do not agree with the fact that he says their clubs will not exist or whatever. That's not the case. I do agree with Serie A being hurt massively.
The main one. I agree.
Now, here's one thing. Whether we're rivals or not, okay, we cannot deny the fact that we are all intertwined, okay? Whether we like it or not, Inter Milan, AC Milan are tied to Juventus, okay? And Juventus are tied to them, whether we like it or not. It is beneficial for this league, for all of those teams to thrive. Napoli has been on the up for a while and thrown themselves in there, but make no mistake about it. Those are the three big teams that are worldwide known and recognized. This going down in 2006 had major implications on Serie A, and it hurt them big time, okay? Now, this happening again will hurt them again. There is already a massive deficit financially between the other leagues and Serie A. This going through, all these investigations, anything, if the type of punishments that the rival fans want actually goes down, they are in fact being ridiculous and to a degree stupid for wanting it to actually happen. Okay, so those that joke about it and whatnot, that's one thing, but to actually wish that, look, the league would suffer tremendously, and it's already way behind. Okay,
like just look at just alone, and TV deals alone wouldn't all but evaporate, but they would be greatly affected. So as easy it is for you to watch Serie A in North America now, if Juventus goes anywhere, like, don't kid yourselves, that's going to affect TV deals, because
do you want to talk about the TV deals already? Let's talk about the TV deals already. 225 million euros for Serie A. EPL, almost 2 billion. Okay. La Liga, 1 billion. We are already miles behind. So for them to even want something like that, and think that, oh, all would be well. We would just continue on and it could. No, when a major player in that league goes through this, and the media gets its hands on it, and then outside media gets its hands on it, Italy's reputation is already down, and we're already at a deficit. So Serie A is already trying to come from behind. You do this, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And the FIGC needs to, do they need to address something now, or do they need to just sit back?
No, because you have to sort of let this run its course, because there's no legal action. You and I have been, drop my pencil. You and I have been on here for an hour, and I haven't seen any sort of legal action. There's been no charges laid. There's been no investigations reopened. It's just, newspapers stating what has happened and what could potentially happen. So at the moment, no, there's no relegation. There's no points. There's no nothing. It's just a publicly traded company had all of its board members resign, and they just so happen to be a football club. So, there's absolutely nothing happening. But and Ryan here puts in the comments about, ever since 2006, you and I are lucky enough to remember the league before 2006, when Inter was a powerhouse, when Milan was a powerhouse, Lazio, Parma, right? Every year was somebody different. Rome, Fiorentina had a year or two in there. Like, it was awesome. And then 2006, it all went into the shitter.
Yeah.
Right? Because they did that to Juventus, but they also penalized it was Fiorentina and Milan as well. Yeah. For this one here, if it goes back to, if that Plus Venza gets reopened, don't kid yourselves. And you talked about this earlier in the show, so if anybody joined late, we already covered it. Juventus is going to drag everybody else into it too. Napoli had a bigger issue with the Plus Venza than Juventus did. So let's not forget that. Like, I don't see, if the FIGC is smart, which I think they are far from smart, they're not going to want to open this can of worms. They're going to keep this to a financial fraud investigation, and they're going to let the Turin prosecutors, levy whatever fines against the clubs or the individuals there, which you and I have already said, if fines or charges are leveled against individuals, I don't disagree with that. Pulling this into a sporting issue isn't good for anybody.
Yeah.
And it's a stretch for me.
Yeah. Michael Razzo's saying Italy is the only league where they shit on their best teams.
Yeah.
A lot of unfair stuff gets swept aside for other clubs. Why are we always under the microscope? To be honest, again,
Michael's never been to Italy then.
I will reiterate this. If these guys did, in fact, do what they're being accused of, being a publicly traded company, they deserve the punishment, 1,000%. So again, until all is in front of us and we actually see the finalization of everything right now, I'm not going to say that, are we always under the microscope? Well, yeah, because that's the way it's always been in Italy. Yeah. In Italy, it's always like that. I've always said this because I've always felt this way, no matter even when the league was thriving and whatnot. That league, they would rather shoot themselves in the foot if it meant taking out a certain side than seeing the whole group grow together and be stronger whenever. And it's for this reason and this mentality. And until there's major changes at the FIGC level, that I honestly don't expect Serie A to excel and thrive until there's major changes at that level. I honestly feel that way. And I've seen it my entire life since I've started following Serie A. I've always seen it like that. Even when they were thriving, they will jump at the opportunity to just take down one of these other clubs, even if it means hurting the entire group that they're a part of. It's wild, but it's always been like that.
Yeah.
Always been like that. In terms of Razzo saying, who do you put in charge? And can we see some old Juve legends come back to this club? So obviously, yesterday, again, it just all comes out. And, you're hearing Buffon, you're hearing Chiellini, you're hearing ADP. And then ADP's got an interview with ESPN as he happened to be on the panel for World Cup coverage. The beautiful thing there was that ADP said, look, I'm on standby. That was epic. But I think it was misinterpreted by
It
everybody.
was, yeah.
He's not saying he's on standby to come in and run the team. They asked him literally like, would you do it if you were asked to? And he goes, well, you're asking me this amongst all this and whatnot, and we don't even know what's going on and everything like that. He's on standby in terms of the news and what the outcome is. And he said he's friends with everybody and whatnot. And people will take apart little things and dissect it and everything. He's on standby as all of us are.
Okay. Yeah, he's on standby to support the club. And
yes,
it's just a general comment of like, being nice to someone. Like he said, I knew them for 20, I was part of that club for 20 years. I'm on standby for whatever they need.
Having said that, okay.
Yes.
Do you think he'd be involved at some point if asked?
It'd be interesting to see. Jeez, Bobby Davaros, don't put that one up. So it'd be interesting to see
funny
what capacity they would ask him. The only person that I could see for sure coming back is Chiellini. He has that master's in business. That one makes sense. You and I have disagreed before on ADP, but you keep bringing up the point that he has personal businesses that he's grown. So he does have that business acumen to come in and assist. Buffon doesn't really make any sense to me. No. The one I'm concerned about is Platini. Now, Platini, he has managed whatever at the highest levels. He managed UEFA for crying out loud. Now, he had those allegations against him. They came to trial. All those charges were dropped last year. I still don't like the fact that charges were raised against him. Bringing him in would be a lot. I don't think that'd be good for business, and I don't think the board would vote on that. So I'll go back to it. The only one I can see coming in eventually would be Chiellini or Bettega. He was another name that was floated out there today.
Roberto Bettega was another one. Now this whole player thing and everybody, and we got into this way back when it was kind of being spoken about that Agnelli's time might come to an end, right? Again, the manner that this all went down was just shocking any way you slice it, but ADP, for those who say, no, we just want to tie into these people and whatnot. It all comes down to what we're trying to establish and what we're trying to do. For me, ADP coming in, it's great. What's the role? What's the role? Exactly. Because we're going to get a new sporting director, and that's been on the docket since last season.
So they did hire someone.
Sorry?
They did hire someone, but is that just an intern? Wasn't that Ferraro, or is he the president?
So he's going to be acting as president. Okay.
Right, sorry.
And God damn this camera. So he's going to be acting as president. Scanavino's going to be acting as general manager. Okay. Sporting director will be hired. Gintolo is the name that's out there. He's obviously very close with Antonio Conte. Okay. All this talk, there was a lot of people already celebrating this. It's far too early to celebrate the whole massive board sweep and upper management change and everything. It's far too early because there's a lot of uncertainties that are still there, okay? We feel a certain way about any relegation talk, any kind of penalizations to that level, okay? But again, it's Italy and it's Juve. Who knows? I doubt it. Still strongly, highly doubt it. But in terms of Del Piero, in terms of these players, what is the actual role? And if we look back, Boniperti did it way back when. He was a player. He didn't have arguably some of the experience these guys do in terms of business and everything like that. But these guys aren't coming in to run the business. Chiellini, okay, he's got business masters. He could be on the business side of things. ADP would not be coming in to run Juventus as a business. The way I look at it, ADP is he would probably have to do with the culture, because he's one of those guys that went through so many eras of Juventus. Okay. And for me, the benefit of bringing a guy like that in, why you would even think about doing it, is culture, is the culture. He is an ambassador of Juventus naturally, whether he wants to be or not. You think Juventus, that's one of the first names that comes into your head. He would be associated with it. The amount of respect he has worldwide, globally, in the game.
Mhm.
Players, young players even coming up, they all know who Del Piero is. He's that guy. It's all about that. It's not about the business side of things. So people that are saying, well, why would you want these guys in? They can't run a business. They can't run a team. They have no idea about it. It wouldn't be, hey, we're going to bring all these guys in. They're going to run this team. That's not what it would be about. Okay. That's not what it would be about. However, Buffon, I will say this, much I love the guy, he makes no sense to me. He doesn't actually make any sense to me. ADP does, Chiellini does, even Marquisio makes absolutely no sense to me. We're getting into a thing where we just are thinking with our hearts rather than the heads, right?
I'll even put this out there to your point. Whatever to the board, all the names on the board, people didn't know them 2 days ago. People didn't know them yesterday. People still don't even know their names today, other than Agnelli, which is fine. I didn't know all the names either. The sporting director will be the most important hire. That's the one we have to get right. The president, I get it, sure, but that's the
that was amazing.
So the sporting director really is the one. Let's get that right. And if Del Piero comes in to assist that role, I don't think he's really a sporting director, because sporting director is also sort of a talent, right? Has to have some sort of scouting sort of background. So that's the one we really need to get that right.
And Gintoli right now, he's been one of the names. And again, this links back to in the summer.
And people who don't know, can you explain who that person is?
Gintoli was with Juventus, I believe, in a scouting capacity. Don't quote me on this because I haven't looked at it since the summer went up, but he is very, very close ties with Antonio Conte. And the whole thing with Gintoli, when he was brought up, is that this could possibly be a piece that comes in with Antonio Conte. It's just, the whole thing's interesting, And again, when we talk about theories, the amount of even conspiracies that are going around right now, they had that reunion. Did you see that reunion with the Juve legends? And it was Torricelli, it was Pesotto, Ferrara, Conte was there, Lippi was there, Moggi was there, and all this. And one of the theories right now is that this reunion was held as a front to get a couple people in the doors and talk a little bit beyond. So it's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. But there's a lot circulating, and that's just naturally going to happen, right? So look, Mochi's got a lifetime ban, Michael Razzo. So as much as, hey, we want to get back to the days of locking people in rooms.
Allegedly. That was never proven.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Great.
Never happened.
Mochi's quite the character, and the stories are epic. But look, right now, in terms of this, everybody, let's keep calm. Let's take it easy, kind of wait to see what develops. I hope we gave you enough coverage of exactly what's at hand and whatnot. But right now, Lou said he's at DEFCON 3. Anth, where are you at? Because he said DEFCON 3 as of this morning. So
again, I think we repeated a lot of stuff today, and this was good. This is sort of like our therapy session. Al went to sleep last night. Okay, then you messaged us this morning saying you're more worried this morning. Yeah, I was the exact same the whole time, because being born when I was, don't worry about this kind of stuff. So there's no charges laid. There's nothing that's changed. All that happened was a publicly traded company that so happens to be a football club had their entire board resign, and it affected the share price by a little under 3%. So again, behind the scenes legally, there was nothing that changed. There was, this could have been something that had to be done because of the, what the prosecutor wanted in Turin. So again, nothing's happened. There's been nothing new, unless somebody wants to add in the chat, but I haven't seen anything on the All UVCast news feed that's changed. So let's see what happens. There is a chance that they just hire the new board. They elect them they put their names forward December 27th. They get elected January 18th, and then on we go.
Yeah, we wait and see.
Wait and see.
Yeah, we wait and see. Yesterday, Justin, oh shit. Today, oh shit. This is bad.
It's not that bad. I'm not that worried.
Again, right now, the biggest thing I can tell everybody is that, and again, I can't stress this enough, right now, there is nothing on the sporting side. Okay?
Nothing.
So, again, like I say, we just have to wait patiently. Okay. I feel bad for some of my friends overseas in certain time zones that literally couldn't sleep last night because of the time that this all hit. And
Omer.
it's a lot to process. It's a lot. And I also feel bad for some of our friends that were waking up to an absolute shitstorm. All right.
Yeah.
And with so much to try and process. So we, again, we like to do these things when they pop up, and massive props to Ant for becoming available and doing this with me today, as there's a lot to talk about, and we like to kind of use these as what Ant said, a therapy session, let it all out, kind of lay everything in, timestamps and everything. Take with all the information you're given what you want to make of the conclusions. I said it earlier. I said it to the team yesterday in the group chat. I would not be surprised if this was a soft firing. And of course you would do a soft firing for a guy like Agnelli. And Agnelli and Elkin are friggin' cousins, for God's sakes. It's in the family. To me,
that's a good point too.
To me, it's a soft firing. And to be honest, Andrea Agnelli, if there's one thing he deserves, it would be to go out in that manner on his own accord. Hey, I have resigned and whatnot. Nobody can take away or discredit the achievements that he's gotten for this team, the massive turnaround, the decade of dominance and everything, all the trophies, the end of an era. Sure, he's still part owner and he still will be involved in the back. Okay. Thank you for everything you've achieved up until this point. I am not afraid in business and in life of change. I'm not. Okay. Anthony, any last kind of things you want to put out there?
Well, I couldn't say it any better than this, that bot that came up here. Find your love here. Right? That's what we do. We love Juve. We come here to find our love. All right.
It's weird to get the bots in here when Lucci's not here with those dirty cookies on that laptop. But yeah, it's we don't usually get them when it's just us two. But no, everybody, again, take it easy. And
one day at a time.
Take it easy, buddy. Take it easy. Everybody, gamma, okay?
Yep.
Gamma. Mario, Messi, gamma. Relax. We will see what unfolds. We have a lot of time. I want to thank everybody for being here in live chat. You guys were tremendous today. It was it adds so much to the discussions. Fantastic. Please like the video, and on your way out, just drop a comment in the comment section of this video. It all helps. Do not forget, okay, another way to support the channel and get yourself some cool custom Juve merch. Check out the shop, 15% off right now and free shipping for the next 6 days. Okay, everybody. Again, I'll keep you up to date with this and everything else on the daily update videos. Look for another live show this weekend, and maybe we have a bit more to unfold in terms of this. Okay, but everybody, try to keep calm. We'll see where the chips fall, and we'll tackle it all together. All right. As always, fino alla fine, forza Juve. Ciao tutti.